100 motorcycles rolled down Oakwood Street that Saturday morning. The engine shook windows in their frames. Kids froze mid-step on cracked sidewalks. Chrome and black leather, crimson patches, catching morning light, a convoy stretching 3 full blocks. And at the end of the street, standing on a narrow driveway beside a house with peeling paint, was a 17-year-old boy named Jamie Brennan, eyes wide, hands shaking. He didn't know why they were here. He didn't know what was about to happen. All he knew was that 3 weeks ago he'd made a choice that cost him everything he had, and now somehow 100 strangers on motorcycles had come to his door. But before we get to that moment, before the engines and the tears and everything that came after, you need to understand something first. You need to understand what $10 meant to Jamie Brennan. Because for most people, $10 is nothing. It's coffee and a muffin. It's loose change forgotten in a jacket pocket. But for Jamie, $10 was the difference between making it through the week and not making it at all. 3 weeks earlier, Jamie's alarm went off at 5:30 every morning, not because he wanted to wake up that early, because he had to. His grandmother needed her insulin kept cold, and the old refrigerator in their kitchen made a sound around 4 in the morning that meant the compressor was struggling again. So Jamie got up early, checked the temperature, made sure everything was holding. Then he started his day. The house was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with cracked linoleum that curled at the edges. The wallpaper in the hallway had been peeling since Jamie was 12, pulling away from the wall like it was trying to escape. The window in his bedroom didn't lock anymore. He'd taped it shut with duct tape last winter and never got around to fixing it. But the house was clean. Always clean. Grandma Louise insisted on that. We may not have much, she used to say, but we don't have to live like it. Grandma Louise, 74 years old, diabetic, partial vision loss in her right eye, an oxygen concentrator humming beside her bed every night like a mechanical heartbeat. She'd raised Jamie since he was 6. His mother died from complications during surgery. His father left before Jamie could remember his face. Louise stepped in without hesitation, took the boy, fed the boy, clothed the boy, loved the boy. She worked 31 years at a textile plant until her knees gave out. Then the diabetes came. Then the vision started going. Now she moved slow. But she still made dinner most nights, still called Jamie her old soul, still told him he worried too much. He told her he was fine. They both knew the other one was lying, and they loved each other too much to push it. Every morning, Jamie scrambled 2 eggs. One for him, one plated and covered with a towel for Grandma Louise when she woke up. He ate standing at the counter, backpack already on one shoulder. And every morning he saw it, taped to the refrigerator door, yellowed at the edges, curling slightly. A crayon drawing, a small garage with a hand-lettered sign above the door. Brennan's Garage. Jamie drew that when he was 9 years old. It had been on that fridge for 8 years. And every single morning he looked at it, and every single morning he looked away a little faster than the day before. Because dreams are heavy when you can't afford to carry them. School was school. Jamie was a junior at Redville High. His grades were decent, mostly B's. A few A's in shop-related subjects back when the school still had a shop class. Budget cuts killed that program 3 years ago. Now Jamie sat in the study hall reading a second-hand auto repair manual under his desk. Pages dog-eared, margins full of his own handwritten notes. He taught himself engine diagnostics starting at 13, electrical systems at 14, transmission theory at 15. He understood cars the way some people understand music. Not just the parts, but how they talk to each other. But there was no path for that at Redville High, no program, no mentor, no one who looked at this quiet kid in the back row and thought he's got something. His guidance counselor asked about college once. Jamie said he was thinking about it. He wasn't. He was thinking about the electric bill. After school, Jamie drove to the quick stop gas station for his evening shift. 4 nights a week, he stocked shelves, mopped floors, ran the register, got home around 11, did homework at the kitchen table until midnight, woke up at 5:30, did it again. He didn't play sports, didn't hang out after school. His classmates drove trucks their parents bought them. Jamie drove his grandmother's 2001 Chevy Cavalier, a car older than he was, cracked dashboard, passenger window that wouldn't roll down, duct tape holding the side mirror in place. He wasn't bitter about it. That's the thing people wouldn't expect. Jamie Brennan didn't walk around angry at the world. He just lived inside a quiet awareness that his life ran on different math than everyone else's. And every night after his shift, after the homework, after checking on Grandma Louise one more time, he sat on the back porch with that repair manual open on his lap, porch light buzzing above him, crickets in the yard, the smell of pine and damp grass. That was his time, the only hour of the day that belonged to him. And here's the detail that matters. Under his bed in a shoebox with a rubber band around it, Jamie kept $43 in cash. 5 months of scraping together ones and fives. Every spare dollar, every tip, every bit of change went into that box. He was saving for a used OBD2 diagnostic scanner, the kind real mechanics use, the kind that could turn a hobby into something real. Every Sunday night he counted the money, wrote the new total on the inside of the shoebox lid. $43. He whispered it to himself. Almost there. Then he turned off the porch light, went inside, and got ready to do it all over again. But what Jamie didn't know, what nobody in Redville could have predicted, was that tomorrow a stranger on the side of a highway was about to test everything this kid was made of. The next day started like every other day in Jamie's life. But by 4 that afternoon, he'd be standing on the shoulder of Route 12 making the most expensive decision he had ever made. It started with Grandma Louise. Her blood sugar spiked in the night. When Jamie checked on her at 5:30, she was sitting on the edge of her bed, dizzy, gripping the mattress with both hands. Her forehead was damp. Her breathing was shallow. Jamie knelt in front of her. "Grandma, I'm staying home today." She looked at him with that one good eye, the eye that still saw everything. "Boy, you are not missing school over my stubborn sugar. I raised myself before you got here. I can raise my feet off this bed just fine. Go." He didn't want to leave. Every part of him said stay. But Grandma Louise had a way of making a suggestion sound like a commandment from God himself. So he grabbed his backpack, checked her insulin, filled her water glass, and left. He checked his phone every hour that day. Between classes, during lunch, in study hall with the repair manual sitting unopened on his lap because his mind was somewhere else entirely. She texted him once at noon. Sugar down, ate toast, stop worrying. He didn't stop worrying. After school, Jamie drove to the pharmacy to pick up Grandma Louise's insulin refill. Same pharmacy, same route, same errand he'd run a dozen times before. But today was different. The pharmacist typed something into the computer, frowned, typed again, then looked up at Jamie with the expression people use when they're about to deliver bad news to someone they feel sorry for. "There's been a formulary change on this prescription." The copay went up. Jamie stared at her. "How much?" $10 more than last time. $10. The number landed on Jamie's chest like a brick. He knew exactly what $10 meant. He knew it down to the penny. That $10 was coming from the shoebox, from the scanner fund, from 5 months of scraping and saving and telling himself almost there. He pulled out his wallet, paid it, watched the cashier hand him his change in the white pharmacy bag, watched his scanner fund drop from $43 to $33. He sat in the Cavalier in the parking lot, hands on the wheel, engine off, staring straight ahead at absolutely nothing. 1 minute passed, then 2. Then he started the car and drove toward the gas station for his shift. On the way, he passed the empty lot on the corner of Oakwood and 4th, weeds pushing through cracked concrete, a faded for sale sign leaning sideways in the dirt. Every time Jamie drove past that lot, he glanced at it. Every time he imagined a garage there, lifts and tool walls and a sign with his name on it. Every time he looked away, Today he looked away faster than usual. Route 12, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The sky had been threatening all day. Low clouds bruised purple and gray, the kind that don't bluff. The wind was bending the pine trees along the highway, temperature dropping fast. Jamie was 10 minutes from the gas station when he saw it. A motorcycle on the gravel shoulder. Not a small one. A massive, heavy vintage machine. Chrome and black. A 1972 Harley shovelhead, though Jamie didn't know the model yet. The rear tire was completely flat, shredded down to the rim, and next to it stood a man. Late 60s, silver beard that hung halfway down his chest, leather vest over a flannel shirt, boots that had seen more road than most cars, big hands, a face that looked like it had been carved from 50 years of hard weather and harder decisions. He was standing with his arms folded, staring at the destroyed tire like it personally betrayed him. Jamie slowed the Cavalier. His first thought was to pull over. His second thought was the clock. His shift started in 30 minutes. He had already been late twice this month. One more and his manager would cut his hours. He couldn't afford to lose hours. He looked at the old man, looked at the sky. The first drops of rain were starting to hit his windshield. This stretch of Route 12 didn't get traffic after dark. If nobody stopped, this man could be out here all night. In the rain, in the cold, at his age. Jamie pulled over. He stepped out of the car. The wind caught his hoodie and whipped it sideways. Rain was already speckling his glasses. He walked toward the man. The gravel crunched under his sneakers. "Sir, do you need some help?" The old man turned, looked at him, didn't speak. His eyes moved over Jamie slowly. The faded hoodie, the old car, the young face. It wasn't hostility in that look. It was something else, something deeper. Like this man had spent his entire life measuring people in a single glance, and most of them came up short. A long beat of silence, rain falling between them. Then the old man spoke. 2 words. Flat, giving nothing away. Tires done. And what happened next would cost Jamie Brennan more than he could possibly imagine. What should have taken 20 minutes took almost 2 hours. And it cost Jamie more than just time. Jamie walked back to the Cavalier and popped the trunk. Inside, buried under a jumper cable and a jug of windshield fluid, was a basic tire patch kit. Cheap. Dollar store variety. He'd bought it months ago for a slow leak on his own car. He carried it back to the motorcycle and knelt on the gravel. The first problem hit immediately. The shovelhead's rear tire was heavy, way heavier than anything on the Cavalier. Jamie tried to work the rubber free and his hand slipped. He repositioned. Tried again. Gravel bit into his knees. Rain came sideways now, stinging his face, blurring his vision. The old man stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching. He didn't offer to help, didn't crouch down, didn't even lean forward. It wasn't cruelty. Jamie didn't know it, but the old man's left shoulder hadn't rotated past 45 degrees in years. And underneath that leather vest, a heart his doctors had been warning him about for months. He physically could not help. But Franklin Morrison would rather stand in the rain and watch a teenager struggle than admit weakness to a stranger. So he tested Jamie the only way he knew how. With silence. 5 minutes. 10. Jamie's hands were raw, his fingertips numb. The patch slipped the first time. He peeled it away, cleaned the surface, reapplied. It didn't hold. He exhaled long and slow, started over. Third attempt, steadier, more patient. He pressed the patch down with both thumbs and held it for a full minute. Rain hammered his back. His hoodie was soaked through. His knees were muddy and raw. He didn't complain, didn't look up for sympathy. He just worked. Something shifted in the old man's expression, like a locked door cracking open half an inch. "You're gonna tear up your knees," the old man said. Jamie didn't look up. "I already messed them up falling off my bike when I was 12. These are the backup knees." The old man's mouth twitched, the ghost of a reaction from a man who didn't give reactions easily. The patch held on the third try, but barely. Jamie stood up and looked at the repair. Honestly, this wasn't going to survive 30 miles to Cooperton, but there was a place closer. Grady's Tire Barn, 4 miles up Route 12. Small shop. Jamie called. A guy named Grady answered on the fourth ring. You got a tube that'll fit a 72 shovelhead rear pause. Yeah, $10. Cash only. Jamie's hand tightened on the phone. $10. He knew exactly what was in his wallet. One bill. The 10 he got as change from the pharmacy an hour ago. The money that was supposed to go back in the shoebox. The money that sat between his grandmother making it through the week and not. He looked at the old man. The old man's face gave nothing. Rain ran down the creases beside his eyes. He wasn't asking for anything. He just stood there the way a mountain stands. Jamie looked at the sky, darker by the minute. No headlights in either direction. If he left now, this man could be out here until midnight. He reached into his wallet. One bill. Alexander Hamilton staring up at him through cracked plastic. He looked at it for 2 seconds. 2 seconds where everything flashed. Insulin, groceries, Friday. Then he got in the Cavalier and drove to Grady's. He bought the tube, drove back, knelt in the mud again, installed it properly this time. Careful, precise. The way the repair manual taught him even with shaking fingers and rain blurring his glasses. While Jamie was at Grady's, something happened he would never know about. The old man, alone with the bike, slowly lowered himself to one knee. He looked at the patch job, ran his thumb along the edge. Clean lines, good pressure, textbook work, not guessing, understanding. Franklin Morrison had been around mechanics his whole life. He knew craftsmanship. This kid had it. He pulled himself back up, pressed a hand against his chest, took a breath, said nothing when Jamie returned. Jamie finished, stood up, jeans caked with mud, hands scraped and raw, shivering so hard his voice came out unsteady. That tube should hold to Cooperton. There's a Harley dealer off exit 14. They'll set you up right. The old man looked at the repair, then at Jamie, a long measuring look. What's your name, Jamie? Jamie Brennan. How old are you? 17. Something moved behind the old man's eyes. 17. He reached into his vest and pulled out a worn leather card case, removed a single card, cream-colored, thick stock, just a name, F. Morrison, a phone number beneath it. No title, no company, no logo. You ever need anything, you call that number. Jamie took the card, glanced at it, tucked it in his back pocket without thinking. He was already running the math. $10 gone. Shift started 50 minutes ago. Friday felt very far away. The old man kicked the Harley to life. The engine roared, deep rolling thunder that shook the wet air. He pulled onto Route 12 without looking back. Jamie stood on the shoulder, rain pouring down his face, watching the taillights shrink into the gray distance until it vanished. Then he got in the Cavalier, started the engine on the third try, drove to the gas station, clocked in 52 minutes late. His manager docked his pay without asking why. Jamie didn't explain. He tied on his apron and started restocking the cooler. Same as always. Okay, hold on. I need to pause right here. Saseba, this is a 17-year-old kid. He just spent his grandmother's insulin money, his last $10 on this earth, on a stranger who didn't say thank you, a man he'll probably never see again, after working all week, after barely eating. I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I would have done that. That's not just kindness. That's something deeper. Jamie went home that night, put the card on his dresser, and forgot about it. But Franklin Morrison did not forget about Jamie Brennan. It was past 11 when Jamie pulled into the driveway. The house was dark except for the blue glow of the oxygen concentrator leaking under Grandma Louise's bedroom door. He stood in her doorway for a moment, listened to her breathing. Steady, slow, okay. He peeled off his wet clothes in the bathroom, took a shower, The hot water ran out in 4 minutes. Same as always. Changed into dry sweats and went to the kitchen. Leftover rice and canned beans. He ate standing at the counter, staring at the crayon drawing on the fridge. Brennan's garage. 9-year-old handwriting. He looked at it longer than usual tonight. Then he went to his room, pulled the shoebox from under the bed, removed the rubber band, counted the money. $33. He stared at the number for a long time. 5 months of saving, and he'd just gone backward. He wrote the new total on the inside of the lid, put the rubber band back on, slid the box under the bed. The cream-colored card sat on his dresser. F. Morrison. He glanced at it, thought about throwing it in the trash. Old man probably wouldn't even remember him by the morning. He left it there, turned off the light. The next few days were tight, tighter than usual. The $10 gap bit harder than Jamie expected. He skipped lunch at school on Tuesday and Thursday, told Grandma Louise he ate in the cafeteria. She told him his face looked thin. Neither one pushed the point. On Wednesday evening, Jolene from the diner across from the gas station sent her busboy over with a wrapped plate during Jamie's shift. Leftover, she told the busboy to say. We just throw them out. Jamie knew it wasn't leftovers. The plate was warm. The food was fresh. Jolene had made it for him on purpose and called it trash so he wouldn't feel ashamed. He ate every bite and never said a word about it. That's how kindness works in small towns. Quiet, sideways, no speeches. Meanwhile, 60 miles east in Harlan, Franklin Morrison was sitting on his porch with a glass of bourbon. One of the few his doctors still allowed. The rain had stopped hours ago. The air smelled like wet pine and cold dirt. His Harley was in the barn with a brand new tire from the Cooperton dealer. But Franklin wasn't thinking about the bike. He was thinking about the boy, 17 years old, shaking hands, soaked through, kneeling in the mud for a stranger who gave him nothing. Not a smile, not a thank you, not even eye contact half the time. And the money. Franklin saw it. He saw the kid open his wallet, saw him count what was inside, saw the hesitation. 2 seconds, no more. And then the boy drove off and came back with that tube. Franklin Morrison had been reading people for 50 years. He built a steel empire by knowing who to trust and who to walk away from. He tested hundreds of men in his lifetime, business partners, club members, employees. Most of them failed. This kid passed without even knowing he was being tested. Franklin picked up the phone and made 2 calls. First call, Wade Dalton, his vice president, the only man on earth who knew everything about Franklin's life and Franklin's condition. I need you to find out about a kid, Jamie Brennan, 17, works at a gas station near Route 12 in Redville, lives with his grandmother. Wade paused. What happened? Franklin was quiet for a moment. Then Doc happened again. Wade didn't ask anything else. He didn't need to. He knew exactly what that meant. Second call, his attorney, short and direct, that commercial lot in Redville, Oakwood and 4th. Take it off the market. He hung up, set the phone on his desk. Next to the phone sat a framed photograph. A black man in his 50s standing in front of a small welding shop, holding a torch in one hand, smiling wide. Faded ink along the bottom. Doc's Shop, Nashville, 1989. Franklin looked at the photo, then at the small amber prescription bottle beside it. Heart medication. The kind they give you when the doctors stop talking about treatment and start talking about time. He looked out at the hills, took a sip of bourbon, and somewhere in that silence, a plan began to take shape. Over the next 2 weeks, small things started happening around Jamie, things that didn't make sense on their own. But if you line them up, you'd see the shape of something coming. The first one happened on a Tuesday night. A man Jamie had never seen before walked into the quick stop during his shift. Leather jacket, motorcycle boots, heavy build. He grabbed a coffee from the machine, browsed the chip aisle for an unusually long time, then came to the register. He paid for the coffee, then casually, like it was nothing. You go to school around here? Yes, sir, Redville High. You into cars, bikes. Jamie hesitated. Yeah, mostly cars. Teaching myself. The man nodded slowly. Teaching yourself. That's the real way to learn. He left a $5 tip on a $2 coffee and walked out. Jamie watched through the window as the man climbed onto a motorcycle in the parking lot. On the back of his vest, barely visible under the fluorescent light, was a patch. Red. Some kind of skull design. Jamie didn't think about it. He pocketed the tip and went back to restocking the cooler. The second thing happened 4 days later. A phone call came into the gas station during Jamie's shift. A woman asked to speak with Jamie Brennan specifically. She said she was from a community vocational opportunity program and wanted to ask a few questions about his interests and background. Jamie, confused but polite, answered her questions. Yes, he was interested in auto mechanics. No, he'd never done any formal training. Yes, he lived with his grandmother. Yes, he planned to finish high school. She thanked him warmly and hung up. Jamie mentioned it to his manager. His manager shrugged. Probably some nonprofit cold calling. Wouldn't worry about it. Jamie let it go. The third thing was harder to ignore. Twice in 1 week, Jamie noticed a dark blue pickup truck parked on his street when he left for school in the morning. Tinted windows. Engine off. He'd never seen it before. The first time he figured it was visiting a neighbor. The second time he slowed down as he walked past and caught a glimpse of something on the rear bumper. A small sticker. Crimson red. Some kind of emblem he couldn't quite make out. He mentioned it to Grandma Louise that evening. She looked out the window, squinted with her good eye, probably visiting the Hendersons down the street. Stop being paranoid, baby. He let that go too. But here's what Jamie didn't know. He wasn't being watched by anyone who wanted to hurt him. He was being evaluated. Quietly, carefully, by people who needed to know if the kid from Route 12 was the real thing or just having a good day. And then on a Tuesday afternoon, the truth walked right through the front door of the Quick Stop, and Jamie Brennan's whole world tilted sideways. The bell above the door rang. Jamie looked up from the register. The man in the doorway filled it completely. 6'4", arms like bridge cables. Leather vest stretched tight across a chest the size of a barrel. On the vest, clear as day, this time a patch. A crimson skull with crossed pistons beneath it. And below the skull, stitched in white thread, VP Steel Riders, MC. He walked to the counter, set a coffee down, looked at Jamie with eyes that were surprisingly calm for a man his size. Jamie Brennan. Jamie's hand rested on the register. Yes, sir. You helped a man on Route 12 about 3 weeks back. Old guy, big Harley, flat tire in the rain. Jamie relaxed a little. Yeah, I remember him. Is he all right? He's more than all right. The man extended his hand. Wade Dalton. And the man you helped is named Franklin Morrison. Jamie shook his hand. The name meant nothing to him. Wade watched his face. No recognition. No reaction. Just a 17-year-old kid behind a gas station counter, wondering why a giant in a leather vest was telling him this. Franklin Morrison, Wade repeated. Founder of Dawson Iron and Steel, built half the bridges in this state. Jamie blinked. And the founding president of the Steel Riders Motorcycle Club. 38 years, 312 members across 4 states. Jamie's hand was still resting on the register. He didn't move it. The motorcycle club. That's right. And you changed his tire in the rain with a dollar store patch kit in your bare hands. Silence. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A car pulled up to the pump outside. Jamie didn't notice. Wade leaned against the counter. His voice settled into something quieter, more serious. Franklin has a tradition. Every year on the anniversary of his first ride, he takes the Harley out alone. No escort, no crew, no phone, just him and the road. The club respects it, but we worry about it every single time. He paused. This year his tire blew on a dead stretch of Route 12. No cell signal. Storm rolling in. His shoulder is wrecked. He couldn't change it himself. Wade looked at Jamie directly. He's 68 years old, Jamie, alone on that highway in that weather. Jamie said nothing, but his expression changed. The casualness was gone. He was starting to understand the weight of what he'd stumbled into. Franklin doesn't ask for help, Wade continued. I've known him 40 years. 40 years. And I have never once seen that man accept a hand from a stranger. But he told me what you did. Wade's voice dropped lower. And he told me what it cost you. Jamie stiffened. What do you mean? He saw you open your wallet, Jamie. He saw you count what was in there. He saw you hesitate. And he saw you drive away and come back with that tube anyway. Wade paused. That wasn't spare money, was it? It wasn't a question. Jamie looked at the floor, his jaw tightened. Wade reached into his vest and pulled out his phone. Opened a photo, turned the screen toward Jamie. A black man in his 50s, standing in front of a small, cluttered welding shop, holding a torch in one hand, smiling wide. Faded ink at the bottom of the frame. Doc's Shop, Nashville, 1989. This is Samuel Holland, Wade said. When Franklin was 16 years old, he ran away from home. No money, no family, no future. He ended up on the streets of Nashville with nothing but the clothes on his back. Jamie stared at the photo. Doc found him sleeping behind a dumpster. Didn't ask where he came from. Didn't ask what he'd done. Just brought him inside, fed him, gave him a place to sleep, and then taught him how to weld. Wade let that sit for a moment. Doc only ever said one thing to Franklin that Franklin still remembers word for word. He said, hands that know how to work never have to beg. Jamie's eyes hadn't left the photo. Franklin took that skill and built Dawson Iron and Steel from a single welding rig. Everything he owns, every bridge, every contract, every dollar, it all started in that little shop in Nashville. Wade put the phone away slowly. Doc died 10 years ago, alone in that same shop. And Franklin has never forgiven himself. Not for leaving, not for getting too busy, not for failing to do for Doc what Doc did for him. The gas station was completely silent now. Even the fluorescent buzz seemed to fade. Wade looked at Jamie. When Franklin told me about you, a 17-year-old kid teaching himself mechanics from books, taking care of his grandmother, spending his last dollar on a stranger in the rain without being asked, and leaving without asking for anything in return. Wade paused. He didn't see a stranger, Jamie. He saw Doc standing on the side of that road, in a different body, in a different time. But the same heart. Jamie's eyes were wet. He blinked hard. Didn't speak. Franklin wants to see you Saturday, his place outside Harlan. Jamie's voice came out barely above a whisper. Yeah, I can do that. Wade nodded, turned toward the door, then stopped. Looked back over his shoulder. His voice was quieter now, almost gentle. And he said something Jamie wouldn't fully understand until much later. Don't wait too long, Jamie. Franklin's not as strong as he looks. The bell rang. The door closed. Wade was gone. Jamie stood behind the register, alone, staring at the door. His hands were shaking and he didn't know why. Outside, a motorcycle engine roared to life and faded into the distance. Jamie drove to Harlan on Saturday expecting a handshake and a thank you. What he got instead was a future he never dared dream about. The Cavalier rattled up a long gravel driveway lined with oak trees. At the end of it, Jamie's foot eased off the gas and the car slowed to a crawl. Franklin's property spread out in front of him like another world. A sprawling ranch-style house with a stone chimney, red barns set back against a tree line, an open-air pavilion with rows of motorcycles parked in neat formation. And behind the house, visible through a wide set of bay doors, a professional mechanic's workshop. Jamie parked the car and stepped out. He stood there for a moment taking it in. 2 hydraulic lifts, a welding station with a ventilation hood, diagnostic equipment mounted on rolling carts, tool walls organized by size and type, an air compressor the size of a refrigerator humming in the corner. His mouth opened slightly. He caught himself and closed it. Franklin was sitting on the porch. Same leather vest, same silver beard, same eyes that measured everything and gave nothing away. But today something was different. He looked tired, a shade grayer than Jamie remembered. He held a coffee mug with both hands and Jamie noticed the mug trembled, just slightly. "You're early," Franklin said. "Good." He stood slowly, led Jamie across the property toward the workshop. Their boots crunched on gravel. Neither spoke. Franklin walked at a pace that seemed deliberate, and Jamie matched it without rushing him. Inside the shop, Franklin gestured toward a wooden workbench with two chairs. Coffee was already poured. Morning light cut through the bay windows and fell in long rectangles across the concrete floor. They sat. Franklin looked at Jamie the way he looked at him on Route 12. Direct, unhurried, like time was something he had made peace with, spending carefully. "I'm going to tell you three things," Franklin said, "and I want you to listen before you say a word." Jamie nodded. "First, I had Wade look into you. I know about your grandmother. I know about the gas station. I know about your grades. And I know about the $10. Jamie's jaw tightened. He didn't speak. "Second, I own a commercial lot in Redville, corner of Oakwood and 4th. Jamie stopped breathing. He knew that lot. He drove past it every single day. The one with the weeds and the faded for sale sign. The one he always imagined a garage on before he forced himself to look away. "I was going to sell it," Franklin said. "I've taken it off the market." Silence. "Third," Franklin leaned forward, his voice dropped. "I'm going to lease that lot to you, $1 a year. And Dawson Iron and Steel's community fund is going to cover the full build-out. Lifts, tools, equipment, signage, licensing, everything you need to open a real shop." Jamie's hands gripped the edge of the workbench. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He tried again. Nothing. Franklin wasn't finished. "But there's a condition." He let that word hang in the air for a moment. "You don't just run it as a business. You teach. You take in kids from that town. Young people who need a chance the way you need a chance right now. You train them. Give them a skill. A real one. The kind nobody can take from them." Franklin's voice changed, rougher, quieter, like the words were coming from somewhere deep and old. "A man named Samuel Holland did that for me when I was 16 years old. Took me off the street, put a welding torch in my hand, taught me that my hands could build something worth having." He looked at the framed photo on the workshop wall. Doc, the little shop, the smile. "I never paid that back. Not the way I should have. Not while Doc was still here to see it." He turned back to Jamie. "This is how I pay it back." Jamie's eyes were full. He turned his head away, turned back. His voice cracked when it finally came. "Why me?" Franklin studied him for a long moment, then answered simply, "Because you remind me of him. Not how you look, how you move, how you help without being asked and leave without asking for anything. Doc did that for me when I had nothing. You did it for me on Route 12. He paused. "Now it's my turn." Jamie couldn't hold it anymore. He pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. His shoulders shook once, then again. Franklin didn't say anything. He just sat there. Let the boy have his moment. That afternoon, the gravel driveway began to rumble. One motorcycle, then two, then five. Then they came in packs. The rumble became a roar, chrome and crimson rolling in from Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia. Steel riders from every chapter across 4 states. 100 riders, they lined the front yard in rows, engines idling, helmets off. Wade Dalton stepped forward and faced the group. "Starting this Saturday and every Saturday until it's done, we build. Brennan's garage opens before the first frost." The yard erupted, fists in the air, voices rising. Wade walked to the back of his truck and pulled out a rolling tool cabinet, professional grade, stainless steel. On the side panel, engraved in clean block letters, J. Brennan. He rolled it across the gravel and stopped in front of Jamie. "From the club. Welcome to the family, kid." Jamie put both hands on the cabinet. He looked at the engraving, looked at the 100 faces watching him, looked at Wade, looked at Franklin on the porch. And then he broke. He cried the way only a 17-year-old can cry when the world suddenly tells him he matters. Open, unguarded, without apology. Nobody looked away. Nobody laughed. Nobody moved. 100 bikers stood in that yard and let him have it. On the porch, Franklin pressed a hand against his chest. Briefly, out of habit, only Wade saw it. Their eyes met for half a second. A silent agreement passed between them. We don't have long. Let's make it count. What happened in Redville over the next 6 months wasn't just about a garage being built. It was about what happens when someone decides a forgotten town and a forgotten kid are worth believing in. But underneath all of it, a clock was ticking that Jamie didn't know about. Every Saturday, the convoy arrived. 100 engines rolling down Oakwood Street. By now, the neighbors had stopped being startled. Some set up lawn chairs on their porches just to watch. The empty lot on the corner of Oakwood and 4th changed week by week. First, the weeds were cleared. Then concrete was poured. Bikers with welding torches cut steel for the frame. Bikers ran electrical wiring through the walls. Bikers mounted hydraulic lifts that took 6 men to carry into place. Jamie was there every Saturday without exception. Never late, never sitting. He worked alongside men twice his age and 3 times his size. Not one of them treated him like a kid. They treated him like the owner, because he was. The town showed up too. A retired electrician named Glenn offered his skills for free. The ladies from Pastor Crawford's church brought Saturday lunch in foil trays. Fried chicken, cornbread, sweet tea by the gallon. Jolene from the diner sent food every week without asking for credit or making a fuss. Franklin came every Saturday too. He sat in a folding chair near the back of the lot. Didn't lift anything. Wade wouldn't allow it, but he watched. Quiet, still. Some Saturdays he looked strong, almost smiling. Other Saturdays, Jamie noticed him sitting very still, eyes closed, hand pressed flat against his chest. Jamie asked him once if he was okay. Franklin opened one eye. I'm fine, kid. Worry about your torque specs. Jamie let it go, but he didn't stop noticing. By late May, the foundation was poured and the steel frame was up. By June, the walls were enclosed and the electrical was roughed in. By July, the lifts were installed and the tool walls were mounted. By August, the sign went up, hand-painted by a writer named Buck, who used to be a sign maker. Bold black letters on white. Brennan's Garage, Redville, Tennessee. Jamie stood in the middle of the empty floor one Saturday evening after everyone had left. The bay doors were open. The setting sun cast long shadows across the concrete. He turned in a slow circle, taking it in. This was real. This was his. Not someday, not in a dream, now. He thought about the shoebox under his bed. $33. He'd been so focused on saving 43 that he forgot what 43 was supposed to buy. A diagnostic scanner, a tool, a piece of equipment. But what he got instead was this: an entire shop, a future, a chance, and it cost him $10. He sat down on the floor, back against the wall, pulled out his phone, looked at the contact he'd saved 3 months ago. Franklin Morrison. He hadn't called it, hadn't needed to. Franklin was always there, every Saturday, watching from his chair, offering quiet guidance when Jamie hit a problem he couldn't solve. Never taking over, just pointing. Try that angle, check the level, measure twice. Jamie put the phone away, stood up, locked the bay doors, drove home. Grandma Louise was in the kitchen when he walked in. She was making dinner, moving slow but steady. The oxygen concentrator hummed in the background. She looked up when he came through the door. How's the garage, baby? Good. Really good. She smiled. I'm proud of you. You know that Jamie set his keys on the counter. He walked over and hugged her, held on a little longer than usual. She patted his back. What's that for? Just wanted to say it. By September, the garage was 90% complete. The plumbing was in. The HVAC was installed. The diagnostic equipment was mounted and calibrated. Jamie spent his evenings after school running through systems checks, learning the software, memorizing the layout. He knew where every tool was, where every part belonged. This place was starting to feel like an extension of his own hands, but something else was happening that Jamie couldn't ignore anymore. Franklin was getting weaker. It started small. The way he stood up from the folding chair took longer. The way he walked to his truck was slower. The way his voice sounded when he called out the suggestions was quieter. And then there were the moments Jamie caught him off guard, hand pressed to his chest, eyes closed, breathing carefully, like every breath was something he had to think about. One Saturday in late September, Jamie arrived early. The lot was empty except for Franklin's truck. Jamie walked around back and found Franklin sitting in his folding chair, alone, staring at the garage. His face was gray, his hands were shaking. Franklin. Franklin looked up, blinked like he was coming back from somewhere far away. "Hey kid, you okay?" Franklin nodded, just thinking. Jamie sat down on the concrete next to the chair. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The morning was cool, quiet. A crow called from somewhere in the trees. "Can I ask you something?" Jamie said. Franklin looked at him. "Why now? Why me?" "I mean, I know what Wade said about Doc, but there's got to be 100 kids out there who need help. Why did you pick me?" Franklin was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, like he was letting Jamie see something he didn't show most people. "You know what the hardest part about getting old is?" Jamie shook his head. "It's knowing you're running out of time to fix the things you broke." He looked at the garage. "I spent 50 years building an empire. Dawson Steel, the club, all of it. And you know what I realized about 10 years ago? I built it all on a foundation someone else gave me. Doc gave me that foundation, and I never gave it back. I got rich. I got successful. And I forgot the man who made it all possible." His voice cracked slightly. "By the time I remembered, he was gone." Jamie looked at his hands. "You didn't forget," Jamie said quietly. "You just got busy." Franklin shook his head. "That's what I told myself. But it's not true. I had time. I had money. I could have done for someone else what Doc did for me. I could have passed it on. But I didn't. I kept building my empire, and I let the man who built me die alone in a shop that should have had my name on the deed." He looked at Jamie. "And then 3 weeks ago, my tire blew on Route 12, and a kid I'd never met spent his last $10 to help me. Didn't ask my name, didn't ask her anything. Just helped. The way Doc helped me when I had nothing." Franklin's eyes were wet now. "You gave me a second chance, Jamie. A chance to do what I should have done 50 years ago. A chance to pass it on before it's too late." Jamie's throat was tight. Before it's too late. Franklin didn't answer. He just looked at the garage. And in that silence, Jamie understood. This wasn't about building a garage. This was about a man trying to make peace with his past before he ran out of time to do it. "How long?" Jamie asked quietly. Franklin glanced at him. "How long have the doctors been telling you?" Franklin exhaled slowly. "About a year." Jamie felt the ground tilt. A year. That meant Franklin knew. When he took that ride on Route 12. When his tire blew. When Jamie stopped. Franklin already knew he was dying. "That ride," Jamie said. "The solo ride. That was supposed to be your last one, wasn't it?" Franklin nodded. "And when the tire blew." "I thought that was it," Franklin said simply. "I thought I was going to die on that highway. Alone, the way Doc died, alone in his shop. And then you showed up." He looked at Jamie. "You gave me time I didn't have, kid. Time to fix what I broke. Time to do for you what Doc did for me. You gave me a second chance." Jamie couldn't speak. His chest was tight. His eyes were burning. Franklin reached over and put a hand on his shoulder. "Don't cry for me. I've had a good run. Better than I deserved. But you've got your whole life ahead of you. And I'm going to make damn sure you start it right." The other riders started arriving then. Engines rumbling up the street. Franklin stood slowly, steadied himself, looked at Jamie. Come on, we've got work to do. October came fast. The garage was nearly finished. The final inspections were scheduled. The business license was approved. Jamie had already lined up his first apprentice, a 16-year-old named Cole Winters, kid with a record, 2 absences from expulsion. Nowhere to go after the final bell. Jamie met him the same way Franklin met Jamie, by seeing something in him that nobody else saw. Cole started showing up on Saturdays, quiet, watching, learning. Jamie taught him the way the manual taught Jamie, slow, patient, one system at a time. By the end of October, Cole could diagnose a misfire faster than most certified techs. The grand opening was scheduled for late November. Invitations went out. The local news was coming. Jolene was catering. Pastor Crawford was going to say a few words. Everything was falling into place, except Franklin. He came to the lot less and less. Some Saturdays he didn't come at all. Wade would show up instead and tell Jamie that Franklin wasn't feeling well, needed to rest. Jamie tried calling. Franklin didn't always answer. When he did, his voice sounded distant, tired. One evening in early November, Jamie drove to the ranch unannounced. He pulled up to the house and saw Wade's truck in the driveway. A doctor's car, too. Jamie's stomach dropped. He got out, walked to the door, knocked. Wade answered. His face said everything. He's resting, Wade said quietly. Can I see him? Wade hesitated, then stepped aside. Jamie walked through the house to Franklin's bedroom. The door was open. Franklin was in bed, eyes closed, breathing shallow, an oxygen tube in his nose. The amber prescription bottles lined up on the nightstand like soldiers. Jamie stood in the doorway. He didn't want to wake him, didn't want to intrude. He just wanted to see him, to know he was still here. Franklin's eyes opened. Slowly, he saw Jamie and smiled. Barely, but it was there. Hey, kid. Jamie walked over, sat in the chair beside the bed. You're supposed to be resting. I am resting. You're the one who drove all the way out here. Jamie tried to smile, couldn't quite manage it. They sat in silence for a while. The oxygen machine hummed. Outside, the sun was setting, orange light slipping through the curtains. The garage looks good, Franklin said. Yeah, it's almost done. You're ready for the opening? Jamie nodded, then shook his head. I don't know, feels like it's moving too fast. Franklin looked at him. That's life, kid. It always moves faster than you think. Another silence. Longer this time. I need to tell you something, Franklin said. His voice was quieter now, weaker. Jamie leaned forward. I'm not going to make it to the opening. Jamie's chest went cold. What? The doctors give me a week, maybe 2. I wanted to be there, wanted to see you cut that ribbon, but I don't think I'm going to make it. Jamie's hands were shaking. You don't know that? You could. Franklin shook his head slowly. I know Jamie. I've known for a while. But that's okay because I've already seen what I needed to see. What you, standing in that garage, teaching Cole, building something real. That's what I needed to see. That's my ribbon cutting. Jamie's eyes blurred. He wiped them with the back of his hand. I wouldn't have any of this without you. Franklin reached out, put his hand over Jamie's. And I wouldn't have made peace without you. So I'd say we're even. They sat like that for a long time, hand in hand. Old man and young man, mentor and student. 2 people who found each other at exactly the right time. When Jamie finally stood to leave, Franklin called after him. Jamie. He turned. Keep the circle going. That's all I ask. Someone helped me. I helped you. You helped the next one. That's how it works. That's how Doc's legacy lives forever. Jamie nodded. He couldn't speak. He walked out of the room, out of the house, got in his car, and cried harder than he'd ever cried in his life. Franklin Morrison died 1 week before the grand opening of Brennan's garage, quietly, at home, in his chair on the porch, facing the hills, glass of bourbon on the armrest, the amber prescription bottle beside it. nearly empty. Wade called Jamie early that morning. The sun wasn't up yet. Jamie already knew before Wade said the words, "He's gone, kid." Jamie didn't say anything. He hung up, got dressed, drove to the garage, opened the bay doors, stood in the middle of the empty floor, alone. The realization hit him all at once. Franklin had planned this. Every step, the solo ride, the flat tire, the offer, the garage, the teaching, all of it. Franklin knew he was dying, and he spent his last year making sure Jamie had a future, making sure Doc's legacy didn't die with him, and making sure the circle kept going. Jamie sank to his knees, put his face in his hands, and let it all come out. The days between Franklin's death and the funeral moved in a strange rhythm, too fast and too slow at the same time. Jamie went to school, went to the garage, went through the motions, but everything felt hollow, like the world had shifted slightly off its axis and nothing quite lined up anymore. Wade handled the arrangements. Franklin had planned everything years ago, down to the last detail: the route, the riders, the cemetery plot beside his parents, even the eulogy. He didn't want speeches, didn't want tears, just the ride, the roar, the respect. The funeral procession stretched over a mile, 300 motorcycles, from Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, and states beyond. Still riders from every chapter. Independent clubs who'd heard the name Franklin Morrison and knew what it meant. Old men with gray beards and young men barely old enough to ride. All of them rolling slow through Redville with engines idling low like a heartbeat. The town of Redville lined the road. Business owners stood outside their shops. Families stood on porches. Kids sat on curbs with their parents' hands on their shoulders. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the rumble of 300 engines moving as one. Jamie stood at the front, helmet against his chest, work shirt with Brennan's Garage stitched above the pocket. Wade had offered him a vest, a patch, membership in the club. Jamie said no, not because he didn't want it, because he hadn't earned it yet. Franklin would have wanted him to earn it. The procession moved through town and out toward the cemetery on the hill, past the quick stop where Jamie used to work, past the empty lot that wasn't empty anymore, past the high school, past the diner where Jolene stood in the doorway with a towel in her hands and tears on her face. At the cemetery, they buried Franklin Morrison beside a stone that had been there for 60 years. His parents, people he'd run from when he was 16 and never reconciled with. Jamie wondered if Franklin ever regretted that. Running, not going back, letting pride and hurt keep him from the people who made him. Maybe that's why he came back for me, Jamie thought. Maybe I was his way of going home. Pastor Crawford spoke, talked about redemption, about second chances, about a man who spent his last year on earth making sure a boy he barely knew had a future. He didn't mention the garage, didn't need to. Everyone there already knew. When it was over, the riders fired their engines one by one, a rolling thunder that shook the ground. Then they rode out, slow, respectful, leaving Jamie and Wade standing alone beside the grave. Wade put a hand on Jamie's shoulder. He wanted you to have something. He handed Jamie an envelope, thick, cream-colored. Jamie's name written on the front in Franklin's handwriting. "Read it when you're ready," Wade said. Then he walked to his bike and rode off. Jamie stood there for a long time, holding the envelope, looking at the freshly turned earth, the flowers people had left, the temporary marker that would be replaced with stone. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything." The wind moved through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a motorcycle engine faded. Jamie put the envelope in his jacket and walked to his truck. He didn't open it until that night. Sitting on the back porch of the house he shared with Grandma Louise, the porch light buzzing above him, crickets in the yard, the smell of pine and damp grass. He slid his finger under the seal and pulled out two things: a letter, handwritten, Franklin's careful script, and a deed to the workshop at the ranch in Harland, Jamie's name on the title line. He set the deed aside, unfolded the letter, read, Jamie, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and that's okay. I've had more time than most, and I used the last bit of it well. The workshop is yours, all the tools, the equipment, the land. Do with it what you want. Keep it, sell it, turn it into something new. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that you have it. A place that's yours, no strings, no rent, no one who can take it from you. But there's something else I need you to have. Something that matters more than property or tools or money. I need you to understand what you did for me. 50 years ago, a man named Doc Holland saved my life. He didn't know me anything, didn't know me, but he helped anyway. Gave me a skill, gave me a chance, and then I spent 50 years building an empire and forgetting the man who made it possible. When Doc died, I wasn't there. I was busy, important meetings, big contracts. I told myself I'd visit next month. Next month turned into next year. Next year turned into never. And then he was gone. I carried that guilt every day, knowing I had the power to do for someone else what Doc did for me, knowing I didn't. I built bridges and buildings in a company that'll outlast my name, but I never built the one thing that mattered. I never passed on what Doc gave me. And then you stopped on Route 12. You didn't know who I was, didn't know what I was worth, didn't know I was dying. You just saw someone who needed help and you helped. You spent your last $10 on a stranger. You knelt in the mud in the rain and you fixed my bike. And when you were done, you didn't ask for anything. You just left. That's when I knew you were my second chance. My chance to do what I should have done 50 years ago. My chance to be for you what Doc was for me. So I did. And in doing it, I made peace. With Doc, with myself, with the time I wasted and the man I forgot. You gave me that, Jamie. You gave me the time to fix what I broke. You gave me redemption. So when people tell you I gave you a garage, I need you to know the truth. You gave me something bigger. You gave me a way to die without regret. Keep the circle going. Someone helped me. I helped you. You helped the next one. That's how Doc's legacy lives forever. That's how we all live forever. Thank you for stopping that day. Thank you for being the kind of person who stops. Franklin P.S. There's 50,000 in a scholarship fund for your apprentices. Wade has the details. Use it to teach kids who need what you needed. That's the real inheritance. Jamie folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, sat there on the porch with his head in his hands, not crying, not anymore, just feeling the weight of it, the responsibility, the gift. He looked up at the stars, clear night, cold. He could see his breath in the air. I'll keep it going, he said to the skim. 2 weeks later, Brennan's garage had its grand opening. The day was cold but clear. The lot was packed. News vans, cameras, people from 3 counties. Jolene brought food. Pastor Crawford said a prayer. The mayor cut the ribbon and handed Jamie the scissors as a keepsake. Jamie stood in front of the garage in his work shirt. 18 now. Birthday had passed a week ago. Grandma Louise stood beside him. Wade and 50 steel riders lined up behind them. Cole Winters stood off to the side, hands in his pockets, trying not to smile too wide. The cameras asked Jamie questions. How does it feel? What are you going to do first? What would you say to Franklin if he were here? Jamie looked at the garage, at the sign, at the bay doors, at the people who'd shown up to support him. I'd say thank you, he said, and I'd say I won't let you down. The first customer was Jolene. Same as planned, she pulled up in her diner van, check engine light glowing. Jamie diagnosed it in 20 minutes, fixed it in 45. She paid full price, refused the discount he offered. You're a business now, Jamie. Act like it. By the end of the first month, Brennan's garage was fully booked. Word spread fast. Honest work, fair prices. A kid who knew his way around an engine better than men twice his age. People drove from Cooperton, from Harlan, from towns Jamie had never heard of. He hired Cole full-time, paid him through the Dawson Scholarship Fund, taught him everything: diagnostics, electrical, Transmission, brakes. Cole soaked it up like a sponge. By spring, he was handling jobs on his own. They took on 3 more apprentices that year. A girl named Macy, who'd been told girls don't belong in garages. A kid named Troy, whose dad was in prison and whose mom worked 2 jobs. A quiet boy named Eli, who didn't talk much but understood engines the way Jamie did. Like they were speaking a language only he could hear. Jamie taught them all, not just how to fix cars, how to show up, how to work, how to treat people, how to charge fair and do right and take pride in what you build. The Steel Riders made Redville an official service chapter project. Annual ride-through every November on the anniversary of Franklin's death. Thanksgiving food drive. Christmas toy run. Kids in town started wearing Steel Riders patches on their backpacks. Not because they were in the club, because the club had become part of the town. One Sunday, Pastor Crawford stood outside his church and told a reporter something that would get quoted for years. I've been in this town 42 years, watched it empty out slow, kids leaving, businesses closing, hope fading. Then I watched a 17-year-old boy and 100 bikers fill it back up. If that's not grace, I don't know what is. Jamie framed the article, hung it in the garage next to 3 other frames. Doc Holland smiling in front of his welding shop in Nashville, Franklin Morrison sitting in his folding chair on build day, and a crayon drawing, faded now, 8 years old, Brennan's garage. Below all 3, a wooden plaque Jamie carved himself. He'd spent 3 nights in Franklin's workshop getting the letters right, sanding, staining, sealing. The words burned into the wood. Hands that know how to work never have to beg. Grandma Louise's health improved. The bills were covered. The insulin was regular. The oxygen concentrator was new. She put on weight. Her color came back. She started making dinner every night again. Told Jamie he was working too hard. Told him he needed to find a nice girl. Told him she was proud. Jamie didn't work less, but he didn't mind. This wasn't work the way the quick stop was work. This was building something. Every car that rolled into the bay, every problem he solved, every apprentice he taught, he was passing it on, keeping the circle going, doing what Franklin asked. Late one night, sitting in the garage after everyone had gone home, Jamie pulled out his phone, scrolled through his contacts, found the number he'd saved a year ago, Franklin Morrison. He stared at it for a long time. Then he pressed call. The number was disconnected. Of course it was. Jamie knew it would be, but he needed to try. Needed to hear the silence where Franklin's voice used to be. Needed to feel the space he left. He hung up, put the phone away, looked around the garage, at the tools on the walls, the lifts, the diagnostic machines, the coffee pot in the corner that was always on, the radio playing low, the smell of oil and metal and work. This is what you gave me, Jamie thought. This is what $10 bought. He smiled, turned off the lights, locked up, went home. 1 year to the day after the flat tire, Jamie was driving his truck on Route 12. Afternoon, overcast, rain in the forecast. He just finished a job in Cooperton. Transmission rebuild on a '98 Ford. Customer was happy, paid in cash, tip 20. Jamie was thinking about Grandma Louise, about dinner, about stopping at the store for groceries. And then he saw it. A car on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking, a young woman standing beside it, hood up, phone in her hand, looking lost. Jamie didn't hesitate. He pulled over, grabbed his toolbox from the bed, walked up. "Ma'am, you need a hand?" She looked up, relief on her face. "Oh my God, yes. I have a flat and I don't have a spare, and I've been waiting for a tow for an hour." Jamie looked at the tire, completely shredded. He glanced in the trunk, no spare, just as she said. "Okay, I can't fix this here, but I can get you to a shop. My shop's about 20 minutes back. I'll tow you there. No charge for the tow, just parts and labor." She looked like she might cry. "Are you serious?" "Yes, ma'am." He hooked her car to his truck, drove her back to Brennan's garage. Cole was still there, finishing up an oil change. Jamie walked the woman inside, sat her down in the waiting area with a cup of coffee. Cole pulled her car into the bay. They had her back on the road in an hour. New tire, balanced, rotated the others while they were at it. Jamie wrote up the invoice. She pulled out her wallet. "How much do I owe you?" Jamie looked at the number, looked at her, saw the worry in her eyes, the kind of worry that comes from not having enough, the kind of worry he used to carry every single day. He tore up the invoice. No charge. She blinked. "What?" "Consider it a favor, but I need you to do something for me." He walked to the counter, pulled out a small cream-colored card. Brennan's garage, Redville, Tennessee. He flipped it over, wrote on the back with a pen. "Pass it on. If you see someone stuck on the side of the road, stop. If you can't stop, call someone who can. Keep the circle going." She took the card, looked at it, looked at him. "Thank you. I mean it. Thank you." She left. Jamie watched her taillights disappear down Oakwood Street. Cole walked over, wiped his hands on a rag. "You just gave away $100 job." Jamie shrugged. "Yeah." Cole grinned. "Franklin would have done the same thing." Jamie looked at him. "Yeah, he would have." They locked up the garage. Cole rode off on his motorcycle. First bike he'd ever owned. Bought it with money he earned at the shop. Jamie stood in the parking lot for a moment, looking at the building, the sign, the lights inside still glowing. Then he went inside one more time, walked to the wall, stood in front of the three frames. Doc Holland, Franklin Morrison, the crayon drawing. He reached out, touched the frame around Franklin's picture, the one where he was sitting in the folding chair, watching, always watching. "Thank you," Jamie said quietly, "for stopping that day, for seeing something in me, for giving me this." He stepped back, looked at the plaque below the frames. "Hands that know how to work never have to beg." He smiled, turned off the light, walked to the door, locked it behind him. Outside, the evening was settling in, cold, quiet, the smell of rain coming. Jamie walked to his truck, got in, started the engine, and then he heard it. Faint, distant, a motorcycle engine. Somewhere out on the highway, rolling past Redville, heading wherever it was heading. The sound faded, then it was gone. Jamie sat there, hands on the wheel, listening to the silence it left behind. Then he smiled, put the truck in gear, and drove home. The next morning, Jamie woke up at 5:30. Same as always. Checked the fridge, made breakfast, left a plate for Grandma Louise, grabbed his keys, drove to the garage. Cole was already there. So was Macy. They were prepping for the day. Oil changes, brake job, a diagnostic on a Chevy that was throwing codes. Normal work, good work. Jamie poured a cup of coffee, stood in the doorway, watched them move around the shop like they'd been doing this their whole lives. Teaching them had taught him something too, that the best way to honor what you've been given is to give it to someone else. A truck pulled into the lot. Customer. Jamie walked out, greeted him, listened to the problem, nodded, brought the truck into the bay. Another day, another engine, another person who needed help. Jamie rolled under the truck, grabbed his flashlight, started looking, and somewhere in a place beyond the work and the buzz and the oil-stained concrete, he felt it. A presence, not physical, not visible, but there, Franklin, Doc, all the people who'd stopped when they didn't have to, all the people who'd helped when it cost them something. They were watching, smiling, knowing the circle was still turning. Jamie found the problem, called out to Cole, explained what needed to be done, listened to Cole repeat it back, watched him grab the right tools, saw him get to work. Jamie stood up, wiped his hands, walked to the office, sat down at the desk, opened the ledger, looked at the numbers. The garage was doing well, better than well. They were profitable, growing, sustainable. But that's not what mattered. What mattered was the list he kept in the bottom drawer. Names of every apprentice who'd come through the shop, where they were now, what they were doing. Cole was still here. Macy had just gotten accepted to a technical college with a full scholarship. Troy was working at a dealership 2 counties over. Eli had opened his own small engine repair shop. 4 kids, 4 futures, 4 people who'd been given a chance because someone decided they were worth it. Jamie added a new name to the list. A girl who'd called yesterday, 16, interested in learning. He told her to come by Saturday. He closed the drawer, stood up, walked back into the shop. The day moved forward. Engines turned, problems got solved. Customers came and went. By evening, the bays were empty. The lot was quiet. Jamie sent everyone home, told them good work today. See you tomorrow. He stayed late, cleaned up, swept the floors, organized the tool wall, put everything back where it belonged. Then he stood in the middle of the shop, turned in a slow circle, taking it in. This is real, he thought. This is mine. This is what $10 bought. He walked to the wall, looked at the 3 frames one more time. Doc, Franklin, the crayon drawing. We did it, he said. We kept the circle going. He turned off the lights, locked the door, got in his truck, drove down Oakwood Street, past the quick stop where he used to work, past the high school, past the diner, past the empty lot that wasn't empty anymore. He drove home, parked in the driveway, walked inside. Grandma Louise was at the table, reading. She looked up when he came in. Long day, good day. She smiled. I'm glad, baby. Jamie sat down across from her. For a minute, neither of them spoke, just sat there, together, the way they'd sat together for 18 years, through the hard times, through the impossible times, through the times when $10 was the difference between making it and not, and now through the good times, the times they'd earned. Jamie reached across the table, took her hand. I love you, Grandma. She squeezed his hand. I love you too. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car drove past. The world kept turning, and in a small garage on the corner of Oakwood and 4 3 frames hung on a wall, a black man smiling in front of a welding shop, an old man sitting in a folding chair, and a crayon drawing made by a 9-year-old boy who dared to dream. Below them, a wooden plaque, words burned into the grain. Hands that know how to work never have to beg. The circle was still turning. The legacy was still alive. And somewhere on a highway far from here, another stranger would break down. Another person would stop. Another $10 would change everything. Because that's how it works. Someone helps, someone learns, someone passes it on, and the circle never ends.